Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Reclaiming My Life. My name is Claudia Massey. I am the visionary author of Amazon's #1 bestseller, Reclaiming My Life. Reclaiming My Life is where we talk about the trials and the trauma that we have experienced, how we have overcome and reclaimed our lives. Our mission is to inspire, encourage, empower, and motivate you to reclaim your life. Please meet my co-authors, Dr. Tiffany Tyson.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tiffany, and welcome to Reclaiming My Life.
Miss Joanne Bellamy.
Hello, I'm Joanne Bellamy, and welcome to Reclaiming My Life.
Miss Ursula Jones.
Hello, I'm Ursula Jones, and welcome to Reclaiming My Life.
The beautiful Miss Tabitha Chansey.
Hello. Thank you all for joining us on Reclaiming My Life.
And Miss Angel Burney.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Reclaiming My Life.
Our presenter for the night will be none other than the lovely Miss Joanne Bellamy. She will be talking about being homeless.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joanne Bellamy, and I'm here to talk about our fantastic book, Reclaiming My Life. And my chapter in the book is called A Journey Home, and it talks about being homeless. It talks about being homeless because I was homeless. And how I became homeless was I was in a bad marriage. I left the marriage and I moved in with my mother. And while I was with my mother, I ended up, the Lord blessed me with my own place. And me and my daughter stayed there for a while. But before I go any further, I want to talk to you about what homeless is. You see, homeless, a home is a place of residence. Homeless is having no home or no permanent place of residence. When you have a home, you have a habitat. You have a family living together in a unit. And when you don't have that, you're homeless. And I became homeless. I moved in with my mom. I got my own place a year later. And everything was going fine, but the rent increased beyond my means. And I had to leave. Being homeless is not a good feeling. It brings about depression. It brings about, it can also deal with you having to go on medication. It brings about sadness. It has a lot of emotional stress on you, on your body. And sometimes it's far out more than what you could do. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that further. I want to bring on my co-authors because we know what each other experienced in the book. So I'm going to bring them on and talk to them for a little while, and then I'll come back and talk with you some more. First, I want to bring on one of my co-authors, Miss Ursula Jones. I want Miss Ursula Jones me and Ursula have talked about on occasion about that she had a immediate family member that was homeless. So I want to bring her on and I want her to collaborate on that for a minute. Hi, Miss Jones, how are you?
Hey, Miss Joanne, I'm doing okay.
Good to see you. Miss Ursula, tell the viewing audience. We had talked a time back about you had an immediate family member that was homeless. And I want you to collaborate on that for a while. I want you to talk on that a while too, to give them your insight of this.
Okay, I did have a family member that was homeless, and it was my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter, she's on medication. She's she was diagnosed with paranoid, um, bipolar schizophrenia, and it caused her to be depressed and not know about what is she doing. Also, she was seeing things, and it was a lot of things that she was doing, but she was doing fine. But what happened was she stopped taking her medication, and she was taking injections. My daughter had a home to stay in, but she got evicted from her apartment due to not taking her medications. And when she got evicted, she could have moved with me. She could have moved with another family member. She could have moved with anyone. But because she wasn't on her medication, she wanted to live in the streets because she didn't want to uh, be a burden to anyone. And not only that, she wanted to stay in her own apartment. It saddened me because I couldn't do anything about it. I tried everything I could do, but because of her age and she's a grown woman, um, I would have had to have guardianship over her, paperwork, and all kinds of stuff. So it took a toll on my body. She was homeless almost like a year, out in the streets, walking around, sleeping on people's properties, washing in gas stations and laundromats. It was a rough time, and this lasted about a year. So when people talk about homelessness, I feel what they are talking about. My daughter was homeless. She was outside the streets. She stayed on the streets. She lived on the streets for about a year. So I can relate of Miss Joanne's story.
Thank you, Miss Ursula. And that is so true because being homeless can bring about a sickness,
Hmm.
and it could also be suicidal
Hmm.
because it makes you feel unworthy. And like you were saying about your daughter, some people prefer to be homeless. They prefer to be out there. Um, when I had to leave my mother's, when I got evicted, had to leave, I ended up back with my mom. And I ended up having to be evicted from my mom's house. It was either that or either I was going to jail. And I did not want to say nothing to anybody because I wanted to try to make it on my own. So I understand completely what your daughter's feeling and what she's going through. Because when you're out there homeless, you're really experiencing going through something that nobody don't understand, not unless they've been there. Thank you,
Yes,
Miss Ursula.
yes, you're
Now I want
welcome.
to bring on Miss Claudia. Um, I want her to give me some output on that. Hello, Miss Claudia. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Miss Claudia, I want to bring you on because in your chapter of the book, Reclaiming My Life, there was an eviction issue with you.
Mhm.
So can you please elaborate and tell the audience about your issue of eviction with that? Because that can also lead to homelessness. So can you collaborate for us?
Yes, I will. I was actually renting a home from an uncle. And that uncle, I was paying monthly rent to him on time payments. I had a sheriff to show up to that residence several times during my stay there. For about 4 years, I lived in that home. And every time I would inform my uncle that the sheriff was showing up, with papers that the house was going into foreclosure, he would just tell me that he was going to take care of it, don't worry about it, until the day came that I actually had to worry about it, because me and my three children were actually being evicted. The house was being foreclosed on. So there was a lot of embarrassment, for me and my children. And you know, you mentioned like a place of residence, your own place. And although you may have family members that you can go and live with, there's nothing like having your own home. Or you know, when you're being evicted and you're like, this was my home and I now have nowhere to go. Although you may have somewhere to go, but that's how you feel. You have to take all of your belongings and go somewhere. So I definitely understand, you know, what it means to be homeless, although I was never on the streets. Um, I could elaborate a little bit more, but I definitely know that you want to talk to some of the other co-authors, you know, and this is why we have that opportunity, you know, for people to actually book us so that we will be able to tell our stories more in depth. And also join us each week like this, you know, maybe we can come back and talk a little bit more. But thank you so much for asking me the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Claudia.
You're welcome.
And I want to go to Miss Angel, one of my other co-authors. Hello, Miss Angel. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Looking good, girl. Looking good.
Are you Miss Joanne?
Miss Angel, I have a question. And I know you went through some domestic violence, but have you ever had anybody in your family or know anyone that was homeless?
I actually do know someone. I actually have
Wow.
a son who I can relate to what Miss Ursula was saying concerning her daughter. I actually have a son who was homeless for some time. Chose to be. He had a drug addiction, and there were several places that he could have moved to, including with me, but for some reason he just chose to live that way. And it's very disheartening, you know, to see your child live that way. But when they become of a certain age, you know, you kind of have to step back some. And I can just say that as a parent, that's a very disheartening thing to see.
It is very much so. Even though I was staying with my mom and I was evicted from there, it hurted her. And I left her and my child together, and I had to go stay in a storage building by myself, dark and cold storage building. So it's a very hurtful thing.
Yeah.
But I want to bring on Miss Tabitha. Miss Tabitha.
Hello.
Say hello, Miss Tabitha. How are you?
No complaints, sweetheart. No complaints. Blessed.
Miss Tabitha, I have a question for you as well. Do you know of anybody or have a family member that's ever been homeless before?
Homeless, catering to the homeless was always my passion. So I met a lot of homeless people. That was something that I used to do at least every 2 months. I would go out and cater to the homeless. I had my co-workers donating. They would also join me and come out. My superintendent come out. I mean, it went far as her even having sponsors to donate duffel bags to me, blankets for these, because it was just something that I loved. Some people look at it as a show off. It was never that. It was just listening to their stories. And, you know, it is heartbreaking. But at the same time, if you can help a homeless person, help them. You know, everybody has a story. You don't know their story. And some people look at it as like they just out getting money. And as long as you did your part, that's all that matters. You cannot worry about what they did with the money. So, yes, I love doing for the homeless. It is a passion for me. I wish it was something I could do every month. So, yes, I've seen it. It's heartbreaking.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a blessing to the homeless. I really appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so kindly. Okay, I'm going to bring on the last but not least, Dr. Tiffany. And I want her to collaborate on it. Hey, Dr. Tiffany, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing
hey,
well.
Beautiful.
How are you this evening?
I'm great. Dr. Tiffany, please give us your insight, provide us with some insight of homelessness and some recommendations also.
Okay. So, as we've heard tonight, homelessness can be a result of divorce or loss of a job, or someone that's suffering with addiction, or even someone that has an untreated mental illness. But there are, if someone's homeless, the best thing that clinician can help with, or other individuals, is finding resources. And one of the best resources is a community health center for someone that's homeless. And you can actually Google find a health center, and it will help you find a community health center within your area. The health centers are actually federally funded by the government, and they offer unique resources, not only GED programs for individuals that may need education, but they also offer trades such as construction or truck driving or dental hygienist. So they offer GEDs and other forms of education, but they also offer medical care, dental care, and psychiatric care. And we also have, at our agency, I actually work for one, we have case management. And so the case manager is able to go in and help the individual find housing and connect them with other community resources. And sometimes the housing can be based on if the individual is suffering from an addiction. Not only will that agency bring the individual to their appointments, but they'll also help them find housing. And then there are also classes to help them with finances, help them budget their money. Sometimes if they need someone to be a payee for their money, to make sure that they're paying their monthly bills or obtaining groceries, or their certain hygiene necessities that they may need. And then also they're there to get dental care, and then the psychiatric piece, whether they need help with substance abuse, with therapy, or with medication management, or even whether they need help with depression or schizophrenia. I think Ms. Ursula mentioned earlier that her family member was on an injection. And so the psychiatric provider can also provide injections for the patients if they have issues with being compliant with their medicines. There are monthly injections that individuals can receive. And sometimes it can either be set up where there's an ACT team that may even go to the home, or sometimes the ACT team may even go to the individual that's living on the street and provide them with their monthly medicines to make sure that they are staying compliant, and actually make sure that their mental illness is under control, and to help them be productive citizens in society.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tiffany. And that allows me to know that there is a lot of help out there that I didn't know about, like you were talking about with the resources, and even they can go out and give them medications and
yes,
and different things as that. So I'm so excited to hear that part. And I just wanted to point out and say, being homeless can bring about an illness, and it can just, like I said earlier, it could affect you all over. And most people that are out there homeless, they want to help themselves. They don't want you to help them, but they want to help themselves. I'm not saying they won't accept help, but a lot of these people out here, they were doctors, they were lawyers. So, you know, some things happen in the process, and it made them how they are. But I do want to take time to especially say this. If you see a homeless person, do not pick at them. Do not laugh at them. If you can't help them, or if you can't give them nothing, even if you can't do nothing for them, please pray for them. And I say this because Ephesians 4:32 says to be kind to one another, love one another. And, you know, just as Christ loved us. And read Hebrews 2. It says, be not forgotten, because you know what? You could be entertaining an angel. Sometimes people that are homeless are not really homeless. They're somebody else. But there's a lot of people out there that are homeless, and they need your help. If you have an extra blanket, and like some of my co-authors talked about how they provide food, and Dr. Tiffany, there's help for the medication stuff, help them if you can. And you will be richly blessed if you just help them. because you don't never know how you might end up one day. You may be in those same shoes. I never thought I would be homeless, but I was homeless twice. But I never gave up. I kept hope. I kept praying. And I just knew, I had enough faith to know that a day was going to come where this would be over. Because not only was I homeless, my child was homeless. And I'd rather for myself have been homeless than for her. She was homeless a month. I was homeless longer. And I just kept praying, and God opened up a door. And any way I could help the homeless, anything I could do, provide food, or give them anything, I do. And most of all, I pray for them, because as Dr. Tiffany said, there's hope for them. There's resources there. Now they have soup kitchens, and they have where they could get expensive apartments and places to live. And people think the homeless don't have any sense, no brains. Yes, they do. They're very smart people. They're very smart people. And there's reasons why that they are the way they are. And they need and want to be loved too. When you say your prayers, pray for them as well. Don't forget them. Because you might be in that shape, homeless like I was. I'm going to bring back on my visionary author, Miss Claudia Massey.
Thank you so much, Miss Joanne, for presenting tonight. Incredible presentation. Please
Thank you, Miss
follow
Claudia.
us. You are so welcome. So please follow us, like us. We are everywhere. You can definitely catch our new TV show on PTWWN every Sunday at 4:30 p.m., beginning this Sunday, June the 19th at 4:30. Download the app, PTWWN, Preach the Word Worldwide Network. We have a YouTube channel. Please follow us on YouTube, subscribe. Reclaiming My Life. Catch our radio show on Mondays, Rejoice 101.3 FM, every Monday at noon. And as always, we're right here on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining. We pray that whatever you're going through, that you know that there is hope and you too can reclaim your life.